Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Appetite for Wealth podcast. I'm joined with an absolutely incredible dude, Matt Shields. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm stoked.
Thanks for coming on. My first question is, what do you do and how much money do you make?
What do I do? Well, so I run a few different companies right now. The main thing I've done in the past is social media marketing or SMMA. That was my starting in business was starting digital marketing agencies, running Facebook ads for local businesses. In my opinion, the best business to start as a new entrepreneur. I recently exited my agency actually, so I haven't talked about this a lot. I think this is the first place I've probably said that. Um, but we recently exited our agency, and I'm now on the board. So I'm just an advisor for this agency basically, and I'm starting a software company, working on a few other things, and yeah, man, doing a few different businesses at the moment and trying to figure out what really sticks.
Sounds good, man. That sounds. I mean, thanks for saying that on my podcast. I had no idea that you exited. That's wicked, and
Yeah.
that answers a few of my questions about where you're going as well. Obviously with software. So where did it all start then? So I know that you were 17. You bought your first SMMA course, and just kind of just went from there, did it?
Yeah, man. I was I was not in public high school at the time. I dropped out of public high school in ninth grade. So I was doing all these classes online. And I was telling somebody the other day, like I was really in isolation. And it was good because what I got to do is I got to reprogram my mind away from all of the BS that's propagated in public systems, like a school, where what a good person looks like in a public high school is somebody who gets a lot of girls, probably talks bad about a lot of people to make themselves feel better and look cooler, wears cool clothes, like just a ton of BS. Maybe they're really good at sports. That's the thing I always respected was like the good athletes because I loved sports growing up. I'm an athlete at heart, but I got out of that system of all this vanity, 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 all of these metrics that didn't actually matter. And I started to focus on like, well, what actually matters to me? What do I actually think makes me a good person? What do I think a good person looks like? What do I need to do? Who do I need to become? So I got to start to think for myself and I got to start to reprogram my mind. And that led to me finding business. That led to me being in a state of mind where entrepreneurship seemed reasonable, even though everybody else that was in that system with me, that public high school, said entrepreneurship's too risky, terrible idea, it doesn't make sense, just go to college, blah, blah, blah. Because I got out of that and I was able to rewire my brain to think for myself, I was able to discover that entrepreneurship actually made a lot of sense for me and that it actually was a great path. And I bought a course for $597. That was 5 years ago. And since then, we've generated probably $7.5 million all on the internet while traveling the world and getting to meet some of the biggest names in the space and just, bro, building a life that I didn't even dream about. You know how people say like this is the life of my dreams? Like this was not the life of my dreams. This was beyond the life of my dreams. The life of my dreams was like 30K a year. Let me like, maybe work 20 hours a week, like play basketball on the weekends. That was the life of my dreams. That's what I thought my dream life was. $30,000 a year. So it's been able to far surpass that, and yeah,
So
man, very,
it
very
must
good.
have been crazy when you hit that. When you hit 30K, you're obviously like, well, this is my dream. And then you're like, well, I can go. There's way more. There's so much more potential here. So you just kept going with it, I suppose.
Yeah, um, I had a mentor say to me, accomplishing your goal is just confirmation that you are capable of more. And when I heard that, I realized I'm never going to hit a goal and say I've done it. Because every single goal I achieve will just be confirmation to me that I should be thinking even bigger.
And that's good. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it goes, isn't it? You hit a goal and then completely just thinking, what's next? What's next? You never sort of get that sort of like gratification. I suppose you do at some stages, but yeah, I definitely see that a lot. You're always wanting more. It's not a bad thing, I suppose.
No, it's not a bad thing if it's for the right reasons. It's definitely a dangerous thing. Like, the desire for more, which I believe usually just stems from deep insecurity, the desire for more is responsible for a lot of the evil in the world. A lot of the conquerors, a lot of the wars, a lot of the immoral, evil activities we see come from people who desire more because they aren't secure enough with what they already have. So it is definitely a dangerous thing. It's something that needs to be managed because if you never chase more, if you never seek to gain more, then you're never going to really be able to provide much to anybody. But if you only seek more, and that's your entire life, and you never stop, then you become potentially a corrupted person. And one of my favorite quotes is, "The path to hell is paved with good intentions." So I try to be really cautious of making sure that I'm not letting my good intentions lead me astray and that I'm always reflecting on, okay, what are my intentions? Am I still in alignment with my intent? This is why journaling is so powerful, bro. Like if you start writing things down, Tom, and you're like, where do I want to go? What do I want to achieve? Then you can look back on it 3 years from now, 4 years from now, and once you have made it, quote unquote, and you can say, man, am I still in alignment with the Tom that hadn't been corrupted at all yet by money, by society, by women, by the lifestyle, by having a following, whatever. Like, am I still in alignment with the Tom who, started from the most pure place possible and just wanted to make it? And I think that that's something I try to keep in mind is reflecting constantly. Am I still in alignment? And there's been things that I've done. There's been mistakes that I've made. There's been problems that have arisen where I'm like, man, that's because I lost myself. These things happen because I lost my true self and I got blinded by something. So I see how easily influencers and these entrepreneurs can lose themselves and how dangerous it is because I've seen it happen to me at a micro scale.
I suppose it's a question really of just where do you stop? Like where's the I've made it sort of, and you just kind of just accept that this is what I'm going to do now, and there's no need to go any further.
I don't think you ever stop. I think you stop along certain paths. If you're on the wrong path, when do you stop? You stop when you realize you're on the wrong path. When you're on the right path, you never stop. You go that path until the day you die. There was this quote, I forget who said it, but he's like, I don't want to show up to the finish line of life in a brand new car. I want to show up with the tires falling off, the bumpers broken, windshield shattered, barely rolling across the finish line. That's how I want to show up. I want to make the most out of every second, every minute, every opportunity of life. I want to give it all my energy, everything I have, because one day I'm not going to have it. So I want to give it all I have, all I got, every single part of me. And I think that's personally how I view it. The question is, are you on the right path? Are you given the right things, all of you?
So circling back to, obviously you started your first SMMA, and if I understand correctly, you started 7 in total. Am I right in saying that?
We're actually on number 9.
Damn.
Number 9.
Okay. So what was like the why? Why not just stick with the first one? Or was it just that it wasn't working, or?
Oh, yeah, why start more? Great question. So, to be honest, like saying I started 9 SMMAs is the sexy way of saying I failed 5. Um, the last 4 have been successful. Like we've cracked the code now, but the first 5 failed. And it wasn't that the businesses failed, it's that I made certain mistakes that caused my side to fail. So, for example, the first business, I partnered with this guy who was going to be my business partner. Never put anything in writing. I was a naive 17-year-old, and I said, this is going to be great. And when the day came to make me a partner in the business, we were doing 20K a month. We had been working together for like 7 months. And I was like, hey, man, I think it's time for me to become a partner. And he said, hey, I agree. And then we actually tried to figure out that structure of being partners. And it didn't work. It didn't work. And ultimately, I got kicked out of that business. I ended up getting fired from my job in that business. And I realized I was an employee this whole time. I thought I was an entrepreneur. I was an employee. I just got fired. Well, I didn't even realize I could have been fired. It was crazy. And that led to me realizing a very big lesson. Put things in writing. Don't be naive. Like, don't be naive. It's something you know you should do. You know you should put your partnership agreements in writing. You know you should have a document. You know that you should have the hard conversation before you go too deep down that road. You should say, wait, like, what does this look like? Are we 50-50 partners? How's it structured? Are we doing profit share? Like, run those things from the very beginning. So I learned that lesson the hard way. That business didn't fail. That business is still around today, I believe. I don't think it's grown, but it probably still does $250,000 a year. So it wasn't that like the business failed. We had the business side down, which was great. The problem is that I shot myself in the foot. So that's one example, and there were, um, I think a lot of it was. I think the biggest mistakes I've made have actually been around business partners. Now that I think about it, the biggest mistakes I've made have been around business partners.
But I mean, all of these things I suppose are just huge learning curves, and I suppose you just learn, you implement them, it's straight to the next one.
Yeah, 100%. They're learning curves, and the quicker you learn, the further you go, the quicker you go. So, like, when I got kicked out of this business, kicked out, I realized I did not want to be reliant on another human being to make money. And I was reliant on this other human being because he did the sales, I did the fulfillment. And so without him selling, I made no money. And I became an entrepreneur because I wanted to control my own destiny. But now I was partnered with this person that really controlled my destiny with me. And so when the partnership didn't work, I gave up on the partnership, or I got kicked out, whatever. And then I was like, okay, I need to become reliant on myself. I became an entrepreneur to make this work myself. So what do I need to do to truly be the master of my own fate, the master of my own destiny? And the answer was I had to learn sales. I had to get some cojones. I had to go out on some sales calls. I had to, get some courage and start selling some people as an 18-year-old kid. At this point I was 18. And what I learned is I'm actually really good at sales. I just had a lot of limiting beliefs around my potential to be good at sales. But when I was forced to throw myself in the fire, when there was no scapegoat, there was no safety net, when I had to make it work, I made it work. So that, for example, was a huge lesson I learned. Is like burn the boat. I burned the boat. The boat was burned for me, and then I had to make it work. And I figured out how to sell. And then I was making 4 times the income as I was with my business partner. So that was, I think, one of the biggest lessons. And you're right, man. Like all these things are learning lessons, and ultimately, all these mistakes happen to teach you lessons. So in the long run, you can build something better.
Well, that's good. I love that. I love that. So when you started out, obviously SMA, you bought your first course. What was the incentive? I suppose the incentive was just to make money and just to stay afloat. I suppose you weren't really looking at the future, were you? Or was it an aspiration of yours to be successful?
The incentive was to stay alive. I was not even thinking about 6 figures, 7 figures. When I bought the course, I've said this a lot, but when I bought the course, I said out loud to God, I didn't even really believe in God at the time, but I said, God, if I can just make $2,500 a month from the internet, $2,500 a month, I will be the happiest person in the world. That was my incentive. Because $2,500 a month allowed me to survive. It allowed me to put a roof over my head and buy some food. So that was my incentive. It was survival. But when it's do or die, when it's like it felt like do or die. You either make this work or you're gonna die. That's how it felt for me because I knew I wasn't gonna go to college. I knew I wasn't gonna go to corporate America. I knew there was no other option. So I had to figure this out. And because of that, I gave it my all, and I literally treated it like my life was on the line. And I'm convinced to this day that is one of the biggest reasons I've made it work, is because I didn't want it, I needed it. Most people just want things. You don't get what you want. You get what you need. You get what you absolutely cannot live without.
For you, I suppose it was just sink or swim, wasn't it, really? It certainly seems that way. And I think, yeah, as you said, a lot of people nowadays, they're all after the materialistic aspect of it. And I suppose they're not necessarily in need of it, but yeah, they're just chasing the money, aren't they, really?
Yeah. Um, there's a there's a quote in the Bible. He who loves money will never be satisfied by money. He who loves money will never be satisfied by money. He who loves silver will never be satisfied by silver, right? So you have to find something else to love in this game, or you will not be satisfied by money. You'll get the taste of it. You won't be satisfied, and then you'll give up. You'll stop. You'll quit because you don't have a big enough reason why.
So what would you say then, instead of for those chasing money? What would you say to just to chase doing something that you love?
It's another good question, man. I think I would say that naturally I've been an inherently selfish person. And I think that's because I was insecure. And usually selfish people are just really insecure. And what I've learned is the most secure I feel is when I'm the least focused on myself. It's when I'm the least selfish that I'm the most secure. And it's when I'm the most secure that I'm the least selfish. So I think what people really want deep down, Tom, more than anything, is security. People want to feel extreme amounts of security in their mind, in their bank accounts, in their lives, in their relationships, in their bodies, in their spirits. They want to feel extreme amounts of security. And I think that's what people are really chasing. Because the thing about money is, what is money at its very core? It's a means of security. It's something you look to and you say, "Oh, I'm okay today. I have that money." It's fine. That's why it's called financial security. So, what should people focus on? Well, I think they should focus on becoming more secure. I think they should focus on the journey of building increased levels of security in themselves. That's the most fulfilling thing I've done. And to me, business is just a way of building a more secure self because of who it forces you to become. So the problem is, though, financial security will only solve financial insecurity. Money will not solve mental insecurity. It will not solve physical insecurity. It will not solve spiritual insecurity. So finding something that you can work towards that gives you security in all areas of your life. Not just financial security, but security that gives you security in everything, in all areas of your life. Going on that path, going on that journey, making that your North Star, I think that's the most important thing somebody can do. Instead of just focusing on, oh, how do I get rich? How do I solve my financial insecurity?
So would you say that SMMA was something that you inherently loved and enjoyed? I suppose well, you said that you were very good at sales, so that must have been something a big part of it, I suppose.
I mean, I thought I was terrible at sales, and then I just did it enough, and I realized I'm actually pretty good at sales. But I actually really liked SMMA for a long time. Like all my friends around me were like, "Oh, let's just do SMMA to like make money and like invest in real estate," and I was like, "This is kind of fun." Like I actually enjoy. I like media buying. I like running ads on Facebook and Instagram, but over time, I definitely fell out of love with it. And like now, SMMA does not fire me up the way it used to. Software. When it comes to business, software fires me up. Software puts a smile on my face. Software is like, I love it. Um, so yeah, man, I did love it in the beginning though. I did have true love for the game of SMMA, but I don't have it anymore, to be real.
I think it's definitely a lot of people can well, say that agencies are definitely like a stepping stone in the business world, and obviously you're now stepping to software, which I also agree is very. It's just wicked. I mean, I've yet to get into it myself, but I'm learning as much as I can. So I would love to know what are you doing in the space now then?
Good question, man. So, see, this gets me excited, bro. Yeah, I'm working on a software called AppointWise. It's called AppointWise.io. And basically, it's this software that turns leads into actual appointments, which is the biggest problem in SMMA, is you get a lot of leads, but you don't know how to turn them into actual appointments. So, partnering with AppointWise, we're still finally finalizing everything, but I've been working with them over the last few weeks to make their product better and to start helping them market it because I think it has so much potential. It's a software that's already been developed that I actually was a customer of, and then I started using it, and I was like, oh shoot, like I should probably like take this thing seriously. This has a ton of potential because I loved the product as it was. Um, so yeah, man, that's what I'm working on at the moment. I think that company has a ton of potential. I don't know where we'll end up taking it, but I think it could be something pretty special.
Sounds really cool. I'll have to take a look at it myself. But I suppose being in the SMMA space, I suppose you already knew all the problems. That's what I mean. At the level you got to, definitely knew all the problems, and obviously this software seemed to solve a lot of that. So do you think you'll end up developing your own software in time to come, or just continue down this?
Yeah, man. That's a good question. I think eventually I'd like to have my own software that's like just mine. It's like my software. It's my dream come to life. I think I'd get a lot of fulfillment out of that. Um, I need more money, quite frankly. Like to really develop a software, you need like I've made a lot of revenue in SMMA, but after business partners, taxes, team, like we probably average 30% profit margins, you know? Um, but then there's business partners. You split that 50-50. Then there's taxes. You got to give 40% to the government. So it's like, dude, people underestimate how quickly $1 million goes. And I don't even buy nice things, dude. Like this office is the nicest thing I have, and these are like $20 lights behind me and like $10 foam things. So it's like people underestimate how quickly money goes. So I think if I really want to build my own software, I need a little bit more capital and maybe a little bit more experience. I think a point wise is a great stepping stone for me to go into that like $1 billion software play that I've been dreaming about since I was 17. So yeah, we'll see.
I mean, yeah, it definitely seems to be the way of the majority of sort of creators online. Like Iman Gadzi obviously got changed from his SMMA into software. Loads of other people are going into the software game, and it makes a lot of sense. It seems obviously all subscription based and huge scalability. So I can definitely see why that's the route you're taking.
Yeah.
But circling back, I was wondering. So obviously, when you were starting out, obviously, I'm sure there were a lot of knowledge gaps which you then had to face and fill. But what were the methods you used to sort of fill those gaps? Like, what resources did you use? Did you have a mentor?
Good question. I had one mentor named Billy Wilson, and I didn't use Billy as much as I should have for mentorship. But Billy was the guy whose course I bought way back when I was 17. I bought his course. And what I really liked about Billy is that he made me believe that it was possible. Because Billy was not the sharpest guy. I mean, he was really smart. Billy's really freaking smart. I shouldn't say he's not the sharpest guy. He wasn't like the most um, gregarious, charismatic, eloquent person. Like he wasn't. You wouldn't look at him and say like, oh, he's a that's a CEO right there. You know, he was just a dude. He's just a smart dude who worked hard, and he was really normal. He was a little bit like socially awkward, and at the time I was like really insecure and like I didn't have the highest self esteem, and I was pretty socially awkward. So I was like, man, like if Billy can do it, I'm seeing myself in this guy. I think I can do it too. And that is one of the most important things that a mentor can give you. Because a mentor, above all else, is supposed to transfer belief to you. They are supposed to increase your belief. But if you do not see yourself in your mentor, they're never going to be able to transfer that belief because you're not even going to be able to wrap your head around how they've done what they've done because you can't relate to it. So Billy for me was relatable. I saw myself in Billy. I knew if Billy did it, I could do it too. And that was one of the biggest things I did to learn and grow was find a mentor that I saw myself in that made me believe it was possible. And then on top of that with like books and stuff, I very very much went to YouTube University. Like graduated freaking top of my class, bro. I've watched more business YouTube videos in the last 5 years than so many people. I've stopped watching them so much now because I'm working, but I was watching YouTube videos all the time, scouring the internet, finding those interviews with billionaire CEOs that have like 1,000 views, Drew Houston, the CEO of Dropbox. Sam Altman before he was super famous. Chamath Palihapitiya. I was studying these guys. I was obsessed with learning what they knew that I did not know. I was fascinated with it. So I did a lot of that, and then I also did read a lot of books. I'd say I probably read like 10 books a year, and then I did audiobooks. Now, like last year, I probably read 40 books. Um, so I did a lot of reading as well, and yeah, I spent my time acquiring information or applying information. And I tried to focus on those two things. Always acquiring or always applying, not sitting idly by doing neither. Acquiring or applying at all times.
I mean, I've noticed in a lot of other podcasts that you've done that you can just off the cuff like hand out these incredible quotes, and mainly I'm just wondering, where did you get them from? How did you where did you find them? I suppose, as you said, YouTube University. Maybe that's where you got it from. But were there any other sources of those quotes?
Yeah, good question. A lot of reading, a lot of YouTube, and I'll give everybody this nugget. There is a podcast called the Founders Podcast. If you just look up Founders on Spotify, I believe the guy's name is David who runs it. It's an amazing podcast, and this guy basically just studies successful people throughout history, successful entrepreneurs and successful like conquerors and things of that nature. And one of the things that Charlie Munger, somebody who he's actually got to meet, and he's studied a lot, Charlie Munger said one of the fundamental algorithms of life is to do what's already proven to work. And he also said there are billion-dollar answers in a $50 history book. Great entrepreneurs study great people. Great people study great people. There are billion-dollar lessons and wisdom and answers in these people's words. So find what they've said. Find what they've written down. Find their interviews. They have answers that are worth billions of dollars. So I sought those out and I studied them. And one thing I do with like Founders Podcast, I listen to it and then I write my notes at the same time. So I listen to the podcast, I write my notes down on notes, and then I transfer the notes from my phone to my laptop. So I have to listen to it, I have to write it down, then I have to read it again and write it down again on a Google Doc, and I just have this massive Google Doc with all of my biggest lessons from like the greatest entrepreneurs in history. And that is something I'll look through maybe once a month to just go and like scour answers and find wisdom that I've forgotten. And yeah, man, I think that's a big thing, and yeah, just being but all of that is pointless, Tom, if you're not hungry for wisdom. I was hungry for wisdom. The Bible says the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight. So it's telling you, like, if you want to become wise, get it. Go get it. It's there. You have to make the decision. You have to make the choice to say, I want this thing. I want to be wise. And because I had that hunger and that thirst for wisdom, I think I've been able to, I wouldn't say I'm wise by any means, but I've been able to acquire more wisdom than I had. That's for sure. Because I really, really desired it in the first place.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I just find it so inspirational. You were able to just sort of off the cuff say these quotes, and it seems as though you've just completely absorbed them and the meaning of them, and have been able to sort of implement them into your life. So I just thought that was really cool. Obviously, throughout your journey, I think you're 22 now, right? Am I right in saying that?
Yep.
Cool. And obviously, through everyone's entrepreneurial journey, you're met with these highs and lows. And I was wondering if you could just elaborate a bit on your highs and your lows and what lessons you've learned from them.
You know, if you put your mentality around the actions you take, you will be disappointed way less. The reason we have highs and lows is because we have expectations of outcomes, not expectations of inputs. If you focus on the inputs, what did I do today? What did I do this week? What did I do this month? What did I do this year? That is in your control. You will be less oscillating in your mood. You're not going to be, oh, I'm so great today, I'm so bad yesterday. You just focus on what you can control, and you put your identity in the actions you take, not in the outcomes you produce. So for me, I think one of the biggest things that has helped is I can just focus on what do I do. If I'm not where I want to be, okay, that's not a big deal. But if I'm not where I want to be because I'm not doing the things that I need to do, that's a problem. Then I will feel low. I will beat myself up. I will say, why aren't you doing what you need to do? But as long as I'm focused on the thing that I actually can control, which is the inputs, not the outputs. So I think that's one of the best things you can do to deal with the highs and lows that are inevitable on this journey, is change what you're putting your mindset in. Change what you're putting your focus on. Are you focused right now on how many views the podcast gets, how much money you make that month, how many followers you have? Or are you focused on doing the absolute best work that you possibly can every single day? When you switch your mindset to focusing on the work and your effort and your level of input, I think that allows you to get rid of a lot of the ups and downs, the highs and lows um, that come on this journey of entrepreneurship.
That was obviously a massive point that you mentioned. But were there any other sort of more implementable
Yeah.
that those listening can implement today instead of having to make those learning curves and meet the learning curves that you had?
Dude, if you just get around people that really are always hustling and are always pushing you forward, you're not going to ever feel like quitting. Like, the power of the people around you, it's so cliche. Everybody talks about it, but it's so real. It's so real. Cliche things are cliche for a reason. It's because they've been proven to work for multiple people. So, if you're not feeling motivated, if you're not feeling inspired, I would ask you this. Are the people around you feeling motivated? Are the people around you feeling inspired? One of the best things you can do to persist through trial is to get around other people who are persisting through trial. The other thing tactically that I've done is, it's kind of tactical, it's kind of woo-woo. I threw my hat over the wall, dude. Like, there's no other option for me, Tom. There's no, like, what am I going to do? Quit? Stop? Give up? I can't. I can't do that. I won't. So, like, there's no, oh, I had a bad month, maybe I should just stop business. That thought has never crossed my mind. I should stop business. Maybe I should stop this business. Maybe I should move into a new one. That's kind of a different story. But you have to throw your hat over the wall. You have to fully commit to yourself that I'm going to do this, and highs and lows are inevitable. And where the problem comes from, man, is people are expecting something different than reality will deliver. And because they're expecting something different, when reality hits them in the face, it hurts 10 times more because they weren't expecting it. If you can just go into business with the expectation that you're going to get punched, you're going to take a couple hooks, you're going to get slapped around, you're going to have some scars, it's going to be painful, you're going to cry, you're going to be sad, you're going to have bad nights of sleep, you're going to have long weeks, you're going to lose friends, you're going to have family questioning why you're doing what you're doing. If you just go into business with that expectation, then when it inevitably happens, you'll be less thrown off by it. Because you'll remind yourself, yeah, I knew this was going to happen in the first place, but I got in the game anyway. So what am I going to do? Whine and cry and complain that I'm whining and crying and complaining? No, I knew this was going to happen. So reset the expectations in your mind, because problems arise when expectations differ. And the reason we have problems throughout our journey is because our expectations were not prepared for reality. And that's when people get burnt out. That's when they quit. That's when they stop. Is they thought it was going to be all amazing sunshine and pillows and rainbows. And then in reality, it's a cold, dark storm with a few spots of light that you get to walk through and walk towards and make it out on the other end. So, yeah, man. I know it's not like, dude, I don't know what else I could say. Like, I didn't go and meditate, and I meditated the pain away. You know, I didn't journal down why I'm burnt out today and that solved it. It's like, no, I just had a mind set around these problems that was willing to endure them, and I endured them. I wish there was a more sexy answer. Like, I watched this one YouTube video and all my problems went away, but there was no magic answer, at least for me.
So how did you sort of build that mindset then? How did you go? Was it just over time? Did it mature? Or was it something that you implemented every single day that just kind of just manifested over time?
I'm a big believer that adversity is the genesis of strength, and that if you want a strong mind, you have to put yourself through hard things. And studies show this. Huberman came out. I don't know if you saw that podcast he did with David Goggins, but Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist, he came out with the new study around willpower and the science of willpower and how there's actually a part of your brain. I forget what it's called. I probably would butcher it if I tried to pronounce it, but there's a really fancy part of your brain that's responsible for willpower. And what they found is that you actually can expand or shrink this part of your brain depending on the actions you take. The trick is this, Tom. You have to do things that you don't want to do. They can't be hard things that you do want to do. They have to be things that you literally just don't want to do. I don't want to do that today. Go do it. And the more that you do that, the more that you actually grow this part of your brain. I thought that was fascinating. They didn't uncover this until apparently, I guess a couple months ago. But self-help gurus have been preaching this idea for years, and they were right. You do things you don't want to do, then you'll develop a mindset that is capable of going through things you don't want to go through. So it's a muscle that you have to build. You just think about it like a bicep. How do you build a stronger bicep? How do you build a bigger bicep? You go and you curl. You go to the gym. You lift weights. You do the work. Well, how do you build a stronger mind? Think about it as a muscle. You go work it out. You go do things that you don't want to do. You go put it under stress, and it will grow and become stronger over time.
No, definitely. It's just just staying consistent with obviously doing the things that you don't enjoy, and then I suppose you become accustomed to it, and you're able to just perform it much better. So I wanted to ask how your sort of approach to business has changed from obviously being 17, starting out, to now at 22.
Yeah, that's a good question. In the beginning, I thought it was all about product. In the middle, I thought sales and marketing were actually more important. And now I've been humbled and reminded that product actually is the most important thing. There was this guy, his name's Alex Schultz. He's the CMO of Facebook. And Alex did this talk at Stanford over a decade ago. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. If you look up Alex Schultz, how to start a startup, you'll find this. And in the beginning of the class, he gets up in front of the room. He says, guys, I'm the CMO of Facebook, one of the fastest growing companies in the world. You tell me, class, what is the most important thing to grow a business? Any guesses, Tom? I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the most important thing to grow a business?
Focus on the customer, the consumer.
Essentially, he said it's retention. Retention is the most important metric in growing a business. If you want to hack growth, never lose customers. Never lose customers. You're just going to infinitely grow. So that to me was a great reminder. And I think the main thing when you talk about my approach to business, my approach now is how do I build something that people love to use and need to use and will never want to leave using. And I'd say that's the biggest thing I focus on now is how can I build products people will not want to leave.
It's a good piece of advice, that. So I suppose it's more just focusing on the product, making it as valuable as possible.
100%.
So during your journey, did you ever sort of fear failure? And how did you overcome that fear?
Yeah, I've gotten this question before. And to be honest, I haven't overcome it. I'm more scared of failing now than I was 5 years ago. Because I have a personal brand and I have expectations from people that I should succeed. 5 years ago it was bro, dude, if I failed 5 years ago, people would have been like, yeah, of course you failed. It was just whatever. Nobody expected me to succeed. So that made success, I won't say easy, but it made success simple because there was no, I had nothing to lose. So I just took risks. I just did things. Now it's you have a little bit of a brand. You have a little bit of recognition from people. You have family and friends that view you as a successful person. If you fail now, you have everything to lose, not much to gain. Back then, I had everything to gain and nothing to lose. So I still fear failure to this day. I think what's helped me is doing things for the right reason. If I can say I'm doing something for the right reason, then whether I succeed or lose, I know my intentions were pure. Um, and knowing my heart's in the right place. The Bible says, man judges the outward appearance, but God judges the heart. So if my heart's in the right place, then win or lose, I know I'm doing the thing I need to do. So that's what I try to think about now these days.
That's a good way of looking at it, I suppose. I think a lot of people fear failure, mainly probably just because of external pressures and maybe self-imposed pressures. I know I do a little bit. But yeah, something I'm trying to work on myself.
On that note, Tom, I heard this said recently. You don't fear failure. You fear other people seeing you fail. So it's not even like if you fail that you're as like worried about. It's the perception that other people will have if you fail. At least I know when I heard that, I was like, that rings true to me. I'm okay if I fail, because I know myself. It's other people's opinions and perceptions and what they'll think of me if I fail that throws me off. So I don't know if that rings true to you, but
Yeah. No, I see that. Yeah, I think it maybe just comes down to just being new to quite new to the space and not having any success of my own yet. I think that goes for a lot of people as well. Still starting out, I think there's a lot of external and internal pressures of succeeding, either just to escape the 9 to 5, going to university, or that route. And I suppose obviously when people start, they tend to tell a lot of people that they've started something, and therefore then have that pressure of other people. So maybe that adds to it.
yeah, that is one of my least favorite things, is telling people what you're doing. I shut up and I just worked. I didn't tell a soul. My friends had to like pry it out of me, and I had to tell my family so they didn't kick me out of the house. But besides that, I just worked in silence. I wasn't on my Instagram saying, I'm building an SMMA. I wasn't documenting my journey on YouTube when I wasn't successful yet. I was putting in the work in silence. In silence. Knowing and hoping that one day it would pay off and I wouldn't even need to talk about it. I wouldn't need to go brag to my friends because the work would speak for itself.
I think a lot of people nowadays have this sort of misconception that you don't have to put in nearly as much work as you do have to. Wondering if you had any sort of advice to those just starting out.
I'll give tactical advice. You need three things to succeed in your own business. In college, they give you three things. They give you a professor, they give you a major or a skill, and then they give you classmates, a community. You have a mentor, you have a skill, and a community. If you want to succeed in your own business, you need those same exact three things. Take college, a system that is proven to work to some extent, but now apply it to a more modern vehicle, which is your own business, your own online business. Find a mentor who's been where you want to go. Ideally, has taken somebody else there too to prove it wasn't just one-off luck. Find a community of other people who are trying to do the same thing. And then find that skill. So it really starts with the skill. Like, what do I want my skill to be? Who has made a living off of this skill? And then where's a group of people who are all trying to succeed as much as possible with this skill? I wanted to learn Facebook ads. So I studied Facebook ads. I found a mentor who was really good at Facebook ads. Then I found a community of people who were trying to build Facebook ad agencies. Changed my life. Those three things. That's simple. Skill, mentor, mastermind. If you don't have those right now, get them.
So you mentioned the vehicle to get to where you want to be. And would you say that SMMA is still a vehicle which is very prosperous to start now, or would you recommend going into something else?
Yeah, good question. Dude, people, when I started off, before I even found SMMA, I was watching these videos about dropshipping, and this was like 2018. And I watched this video by some guru who said dropshipping is dead in 2018. It's saturated. Go on to Amazon FBA or something. 2018, this guy was saying dropshipping was dead. People have been saying SMMA's been dead for the last 5 years too. Ever since SMMA became alive, people have been saying it's dead. So I don't believe that SMMA is dead or that it's saturated. I believe that people within SMMA are saturated, their mindsets are saturated, and their mindsets are dead. There are more and more businesses popping up every single day. They all need marketing. I've started, dude, we just took an agency from 5K a month to 230K a month in like 9 months this year. In the last year we did that. Brand new agency. So it's not dead. We just have to get better. You just have to know what to do. And then you have to do it. So yeah, it's still a great vehicle, dude. I just don't enjoy it anymore.
Fair enough. I suppose over time you just kind of get a bit fed up, I suppose. Would you think that was the case with you?
Yeah, dude. With ad accounts getting shut down and then like clients complaining and then like taking sales calls and then you're managing salespeople and then you're like it's just yeah man it's I don't know it just gets less and less enjoyable.
So I'm curious as to more like your day-to-day sort of lifestyle. So what does a typical day in the life of Matt Shields now look like compared to when you were on the grind, I suppose you could say, 17, 18?
Yeah, good question, man. I was thinking about this today. To be honest, it's pretty lame. I For example, I'll just tell you this morning. For example, woke up, took a cold shower, went to the gym, took a cold shower, prayed, went to the gym, hit a little bicep, tricep workout. I've messed up shoulders, so I'm like, I can't go that hard in the gym, which sucks, dude. I was so into lifting. You can't tell, but I used to be really into lifting. And did a quick workout, walked around my neighborhood, came back home, read the Bible, sat down and meditated for about 20 minutes. Um, and then I got up here, got to work, planned a trip to South Africa, did a little bit of a presentation I'm working on, and then hopped on this meeting with you, bro. So, like the first 2 hours of my day, like Jeff Bezos has this rule. He's like he doesn't take a meeting until it's either 10 a.m. or 12 p.m. No meetings until 12 p.m. Um, or maybe it's 10 a.m. for him. I don't know. But I like that. I like not having meetings in the morning so I can just work. I can just get my deep work done. But I'm thinking about changing that because I always find my mind is like anticipating the meeting, so I never really can focus. So what I want to start doing is just getting my meetings first thing done in the morning, get them out of the way. Then I can do all my deep work after that. So yeah, man, that's a typical day. Wake up, pray, work out, read a book, read the Bible, um, get to work, get to work.
And what did it used to look like when you were 17, 18, 19?
Not that much different, man. Not that much different. I probably wasn't reading the Bible, uh, but I'd wake up, I'd take a cold shower, I'd meditate a little bit, I'd maybe stretch, and then I would get to work, eat some lunch. I probably went to the gym in like the middle of the day, which man, those were the days when like you feel so free. When at just like 12 p.m. on a Tuesday, you're just like off to the gym. You're like 19, all your friends are in school, and you're just like, dude, I'm going to the gym to get jacked today. I'm gonna do some deadlifts. Like, I'm gonna grab some food after, and I'm gonna live my life, dude. Those were the best days, man. Oh, I miss them. I miss them. So yeah, man, those were probably some of my. That's a bit of my structure, I'd say, from when I was just starting out. It's like random gym days, wake up, meditate, read, get to work, same kind of thing.
So what do you think about those obviously starting, they're in that sort of grind phase of their life, what do you think about them just working as many hours as they can? Or do you think it's good to have some sort of separation, to meditate, to journal? What do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean, studies show that separating your mind from work allows you to improve your decision making and make better decisions. I won't claim to have read the studies all the way through, but I've heard multiple people make that claim, and it makes sense to me. So I personally think like your goal as an entrepreneur should be to optimize for maximum output. That does not mean that you optimize for maximum input, because that just means working as much as you possibly can 24/7. But eventually that is going to decrease your output. If you're not getting good sleep, dude, you're going to be running at 50% of your normal speed. If you're not getting some sort of separation from work, going outside, walking around, getting some clarity, like you're going to just be you're not going to maximize your output. So I think they should work as hard as they know they should be. And I think you know how hard you should be working, and it's almost always harder than you are. But I also think there is a balance to having habits that allow you to separate from work so you can create that free space of thinking to make better decisions.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, the reason I ask is because currently I'm just trying to put in as many man hours as I can to get to where I want to be. And I am starting to, I suppose, fatigue in a way. I suppose it's definitely having an effect on my sleep. And I just wanted a bit of clarity on that, I suppose.
Well, yeah, man. So I just hired like a high performance coach, and it's his whole thing is to help me with this. You can work extremely hard. Just have routines that enable you to be able to perform at that level. So like, for example, 2 hours before bed, I have to put away everything. All lights, all screens, all work. I have to put away everything and just like read with a lamp, and no more eating, no more drinking. Just get ready for bed. Get ready for bed. I can still put in a solid 10, 12 hours of work and have 2 hours before bed that I shut myself down and prepare to rest and get a really good night of sleep. And then the next day I'm ready to get back at it. I'm at it again. So I think you can sustain high amounts of output with a good routine and a good system, dude. So something for you to look into maybe is like optimal sleep routine. Hermosi has a great video on YouTube called $100 Million Sleep. If you haven't watched that video already, I definitely recommend that video. Sam Ovens has some good ones too about sleep. But yeah, man. I feel you. It happens. It's part of the game.
Exactly, as part of the process, I suppose. Learn and improve. What are your thoughts on, obviously you mentioned that you meditate and pray and journal. Is that something that you'd recommend for everyone to do?
100%.
What do you think it's done for you?
I think it's allowed me to build a better relationship with myself. I think most people underestimate what it means to have a relationship with yourself and to know who you are. If you wanted to get to know a girl, what would you do?
Speak to her.
Spend time with her. Spend time with her. Speak to her, spend time with her, go hang out with her. You would spend time with her. If you want to get to know yourself, truly, if you truly want to understand yourself, you have to spend time with yourself. If you want to get to know God, you have to spend time with God. One of the biggest things is having intimacy and alone time with God. It's something I'm working on right now. I've always been a busybody. Work, 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 work. I've never made time for God. There's this quote by Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther. And he said, he's like, man, I have so much to do. I'll paraphrase, but he's like, I have so much to do today in such a busy schedule. There's no way I could accomplish it all if I don't pray for at least 3 hours. And I find that fascinating. He's like, I'm so busy. I have so much going on. That's how I know I need God even more. Versus most people, myself included, say, oh, I'm so busy today. I'll pray to God tomorrow. I'll read the Bible tomorrow. I'll go to church on Sunday. Everything will be fine. That's a lack of intimacy with your Creator. You would never do that to a friend. You would never do that to you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you, yet we do it to God all the time. We do it to ourselves all the time. We don't make time for ourselves. We don't make time for our Creator. We don't make time for the people we care the most about because we're too busy. We're too busy. I think what's interesting, there's a study that shows people's number one regret when they're on their deathbed, I believe their number one regret is that they work too much and they didn't spend enough time with the people they loved. It's pretty interesting thing to think about as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I suppose it's just finding a balance, isn't it, really, between work, life, and yourself.
It's interesting, dude. I have conflicting thoughts, man. On one end, I'm like, that's a myth. On the other end, I'm like, no, but these people are saying, like, they are on their deathbeds and saying they wish they worked less. So, I don't know, man. Who really knows anything, Tom? Who really
Yeah,
actually knows
true.
anything?
True. So, what are your thoughts on building discipline, just sticking at something for X amount of time, not seeing any results? So, how would you sort of build
Yeah.
that muscle?
Tactically speaking, I think building a disciplined physical routine is one of the best things you can do right off the bat because if you want to get used to putting in hard work without seeing immediate results, like go to the gym. Go to the gym, train, get into really good shape. Get into really good shape. Again, I know you can't tell now, but I used to be really into lifting. I used to be in decent shape, and it taught me. So it had so many parallels to business. I was like, man, I got to work for 3 months to see some legit progress. I got to work for 3 years if I really want to make a change. I got to work for 3 decades if I want to become a master at this craft. So I think tactically speaking, build discipline by physically building discipline too. Because first, build physical discipline. Because is almost always just a reflection of a disciplined mind. Nobody builds a disciplined body without first having somewhat of a disciplined mind. Because it takes your mind saying, we're going to do this every day. We're going to avoid this meal every day. We're going to go to the gym every day. We're going to put in this level of effort every day. It all starts from your mind. So your body now is just a reflection of a disciplined mind. Or an undisciplined mind, depending on where you're at. And that's why, like, I'm trying to heal my shoulder. It's the number one thing I'm focused on in my life is fixing my shoulder so I can go to the gym again without pain and without having to stop because I hate not being able, I just hate not being able to be that fit version of myself, and have that physique and have that growth. Yeah, so that's what I would say tactically speaking. Build discipline by going to the gym consistently. Get in good shape.
Completely agree there, 100%. I think that's how I've sort of tried to build my discipline. Obviously, I'm still in the process, but yeah, gym's a massive part of it. So last question, because I don't want to take up too much of your day. What's something that you would recommend everyone implement today to get towards where they want to be?
Prayer. Because there's a good chance you don't even know where you want to be in the first place. You have a mimetic desire that you've taken from somebody else and you think this is where you want to go. And the Bible says, man's mind plans the steps. Man's mind creates the plans, but the Lord directs the steps. The Lord directs the steps. So, invite the Lord into your plan with you. Invite God into this game with you. See where He takes you. Put it in His hands because we know Romans 8:28. For we know that all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose for them. All things work together for good. All things work together for good. For those who love God and live according to His purpose. So, if you love God, if you invite Him in, all things will work together for good. And that's like what having faith is, dude. It's like knowing that no matter what, all things are working together for good, for the way God has wanted them to work. For the things, whatever God has defined and decided should happen in my life, it will. And it will be good. Because it comes from Him. And I think It's the most important thing you can do, bro. All is vanity. Solomon said. He said, all is vanity and a striving after wind, and there is nothing to be gained under the sun. There is nothing to be gained under the sun. Everything on this earth cannot actually be gained. It's all vanity. A striving after wind. Can you imagine that? Like somebody chasing the wind, trying to catch wind. Oh, give me the wind. That's what he's saying we're all doing. We're striving after wind. But that's under the sun. There's something greater than the sun. There's something above the sun. Something that created the sun. That is not vanity. It's sanity. And it's real. And if that's the case, which, hey, it's called belief and faith for a reason. Maybe it's the case, maybe it's not. But if it is the case, then perhaps that's the most important thing that you and I can focus on. So that's why I would say prayer.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man.
Thank you for having me.
I had an incredibly insightful conversation with you. Thank you for everyone for watching, and hope to catch you in the next one. Cheers. Cheers, Matt.
Peace. See you, man. See you guys.